Now, I bet my life savings that if I told you that you could make one of the best pizzas in the world with nothing more than a pizza dough, pecorino cheese, and ice, you'd say, "F you, Steve, get the f out of here, you lying." But today I'm gonna blow your mind and show you why ice on pizza is a genius level and technically sound way to turn this icon into a world-class pizza. This is Cacio Pepe pizza. As you evolve as a bread baker, you start to realize for pizza, breads, whatever, a good starter is easy and actually good to have around. And if you use the right flour, you don't have to worry about this kind of volcanic, bubbly, crazy thing that is kept out and is super kind of hard to manage. So if you don't have this in your fridge, here's what you could do. The day before, or even a couple days before you want to start this, we're gonna make a little starter. And in this recipe, I have more starter than I need, so that residual starter that I don't use gets refed, and then you just keep it going. So here I have 200 grams of room temperature water. I've got some instant yeast. I'm just gonna add about half that package, maybe about 4 grams. The more you add, the more bubbly and faster everything kind of happens. This is nice and loose, if you can tell. Bubbly and thick and creamy, but it's happened slowly because we're not using an incredible amount of yeast. We're not throwing the entire package in. And to that, we're gonna follow up with an equal amount of the water we added. So it's 1 part water, 1 part flour. So that's gonna be 200 grams. We're using bread flour. Bread flour got more protein in it. 12.7%, that's the protein content. That extra protein sort of creates like a more firmer, maybe like a little bit more resilient dough. And so to this, we just stir. We wanna hydrate the water and the flour. You wanna just make sure it's really kind of worked in well. And how you'll know it's ready is that it's kind of sticky. That's kind of what you're looking for. Try and clean up the sides. Now what you can do a couple days before you're making pizza, you can put a lid on this, put a rubber band roughly where it is now, and then pop it in the fridge, and it should roughly double, although it doesn't really matter. You just wanna see a loose structure. If you kind of jiggle it, a lot of action, a lot of air bubbles. So if it's not doubled, that doesn't mean it's not good. It's a characteristic we're going for rather than a volume. There's only 400 grams of ingredients in there, so it's always going to be 400 grams, even if it fills up this entire container. Now, if you are making this tomorrow, what I like to do is just leave this out at room temperature and allow the warmth of the room to kind of get it kick-started, maybe about an hour or so, and then pop it into the fridge, let that go overnight, and then that would give us this today. And like I said, you're looking for that sort of ooze, a lot of air action, like a lot of webbing. When I pull it away, what this sort of gives me is a starter, right? I don't need to now add any more yeast into the dough. This is essentially going to be my natural version of that. And even if this gets down to kind of nothing, if you can kind of scrape all of the gunk off the sides, add more flour and water to it, you never have to add yeast to this again, really. So now on to the dough. I've spent years intimidated by doughs, and if you haven't noticed, this year we're focusing a lot on them. You know, you've heard people say you can't make a Philly cheesesteak at home if you don't have the right bread. And I get good bread around here, but not everyone does. So I'd rather start to learn how to make these things, even if I don't do it often, but just have it in my Rolodex. So to start in our mixing bowl, because of my shoulder, I'm sort of like moving away from hand stuff for a little while and relying on equipment. Something I like to do on the show is teach everything how to do by hand so you don't need an equipment, but sometimes life has different plans, so we're going to adapt. On a scale, we're gonna get our mixing bowl on. To the KitchenAid bowl, I'm gonna add 220 grams of the starter. Now I have some room temperature water, about 345 grams of it. That's gonna go straight in with the starter. So that's measured, we can set that off to the side. So now, with that starter and water, we can set up our KitchenAid. It's gonna be my friend. Get the dough hook in, and then we're just gonna start it on low and just sort of break up the starter into the water. Now I can go in with my sugar. We need 10 grams of sugar. We need 15 grams of olive oil, and I'm just gonna add half of it now, and then half of it a little bit later. And then I have 615 more grams of bread flour. So I'm just gonna use a small little container. I'm gonna scoop some out, put a little bit in at a time. And we're gonna just slowly work in the flour, allowing it to hydrate more evenly, a little faster. Make sure all the flour gets soaked in that yeasty, milky mixture. It's a similar concept to the way we roll out fresh pasta. That little well with the water or the egg in the center, slowly we just work the flour in from the sides until it becomes a dough. Once it starts to become less soupy, we can kind of add a little bit more speed to it. Rest of the flour goes in, that's when the rest of our oil goes in. Now all the ingredients have combined except for the salt. Now that dough's looking nice. All I'm gonna do is shut the machine off, cover the dough with a towel. You're just gonna let it rest for 20 minutes. That dough's gonna calm down, and then we're gonna add the salt. And if you weren't going to use a machine, you would do a technique which is basically kind of slapping and folding. You're just kind of getting a shaggy dough like this, then you're resting, then you come back, you form it into a ball, put it back in, rest it for 20 minutes, come back, stretch it, fold it over itself, come back for 20 minutes. We can just do the same kind of idea in a stand mixer without having to use your bad shoulder. 20 minutes have passed. Now that dough before was tough, right? So that machine was gonna fight. Even now, you could see how much more elastic it is. Now we're gonna go back on 2, and we're gonna now add in that salt. It's gonna start in like this ball, and then it's just gonna start to kind of unravel a little bit. And you'll see the side of the bowl, all that gunk stuck to it, starts to get pulled away and cleaned up. The salt is absorbed, and now we're gonna let this run for 6 minutes. Now, since we're doing a dough that's about 63% hydration, meaning 63% water compared to flour, that dough starts off sticky, which is why it sticks to the bowl. But as it kneads, as it works, as the gluten starts to develop and the bread flour with all that protein and structure starts to get worked, it'll go from like sticky and hard to handle to tackier but workable. And that's what we're looking for. 6 minutes up, again, we're gonna give it 5 minutes to rest. Another quick 5-minute break. Let it go for another 6 minutes, and then one more 5-minute break. That's when we're gonna do the window pane test. As you can see, the dough is much more relaxed. It looks very different, but it's all in the process. Then we're just gonna cover it for a final 5 minutes, and then we're gonna give it our window pane test. Less than 20 minutes of mixing, less than 20 minutes of resting, and you're halfway to the finish line. So after that final rest, now we can take a look-see. So I'm gonna take the dough and stretch it. And you see how it's tearing? That means it needs a little bit more time. I really want good strength to the dough, so we're gonna go another 5 minutes, followed by another 5-minute rest, and we'll repeat that until the window pane has been achieved. Cover, rest. Now let's take a look. You see how much more elastic it is? Now eventually it will tear. It's not infinitely extensible, but it should just feel really easy to work. Now I just want to roll it onto the board, and then I'm just going to do a couple slap and folds, which is just basically picking it up, slapping it, and then folding it over itself like that, creating like tension to the dough. And then what I'm gonna do is use my palms like that, and you're basically pushing up, over, back. Movements up, over, and then pull back. Trying to get under the dough with your fingers. Turn it again, pull back. And then you got a beautiful dough. The bottom is nice and sealed. That's gonna go into a bowl. Now we proceed to what is known as the bulk fermentation. It's gonna get it covered nice and tight. Then we're gonna allow this to sit out at room temperature for about 3 to 4 hours. We're looking for it to rise, right? But it's not about if it doubles or not. It's more about the type of consistency it is. Does it jiggle? Does it look airy? Are bubbles starting to form around the surface? That's what I'm looking for. And obviously some kind of rise, but it doesn't need to overproof or, come out of the bowl. We're just kind of getting it started, and then we'll ball it, portion it, and it'll chill in the fridge overnight. There you go. It's been 4 hours, and we got where we wanted. It's got a little jiggle. I can see little air bubbles, kind of not going crazy, but you could see them forming. This is the sign of fermenting, proofing dough, but it's not overproofed. That's what we want. So now we're gonna get it out of the bowl. See there, you can really see the action. So what we're going for is like 220 to 230 gram dough balls. Let me take them and just sort of fold them on top of each other. Start to create like a little bit of a dough ball. You should get about 5 balls. You can do the same thing we did with the big batch to create the ball. Bring your hand around, then pull back to keep it tight. There you go. I got one that's a little bit bigger. I'm gonna use that for a different thing. I like to have different size balls when I make dough. It gives you kind of some options. You can get them into some containers, cover them, and these go into the fridge overnight, 24 hours. You can go a few more days, but 24 hours should work fine for you. We take it out, let it temper, and we make pizza. Now today is day 2. Unless you didn't have a starter ready, try to make this not a crazy long fermentation. Just 24 hours. I'm gonna pull out 2 of our doughs, let that come up to room temperature. I told you we were making Cacio e Pepe pizza, which would be the dough, pecorino cheese, and I've also got a little bit of Parmesan mixed in, maybe like a 2-to-1 pecorino to parm ratio, and black pepper. But just like in the 4 Roman pastas, if we took Cacio e Pepe and added guanciale, we have alla gricia, which we can easily do by the addition of some diced guanciale, which I'm just gonna get into a pot. We're gonna get that onto medium-high heat, and we're just gonna slowly render out that fat and crisp up that guanciale. That's going to be like the topping to turn it into gricia. While that happens, I'm gonna spill the beans. This is a technique you may have seen in my Sunday supper series. Chef Fausto, the pizza chef at the stand, a man from Naples, I might add, started playing around with ice on pizza during some downtime before the event. Now he's a man of few words, so as I watched, it all began to click to me. Rolled a bit smaller to emphasize the cornicione, or the crust of the pizza, ice is placed in the center, which does 2 main things. It prevents the center from puffing up, just like a sauce and cheese might do, but it also does one other magical thing. It creates pasta water. Just like cooking pasta in a pot of water turns water into that gold that emulsifies iconic sauces like Cacio e Pepe. That pizza dough with all the flour dusted on top of it, mixed with that ice, does the exact same thing. Once the dough is cooked, the ice is now a pool of pasta water held in by that puffy crust. And with a simple addition of some pecorino cheese, a bit of agitation to form the emulsion, you've got a truly authentic way to make a Cacio e Pepe pizza while following all the same rules. Now, while this is almost crispy, mind you, I've had my oven preheated to 550, or the highest it goes, with my pizza steel about halfway right in the center of my oven. That's been preheating for like 3 hours. With something like a pizza steel, when you're making pizza, you really want to give your oven all the time it needs. A wood-fired oven needs to be started like hours before you want to cook to get the base of the pizza oven up to temperature and retaining its heat, so that every time you put a pizza on there, it doesn't cool down to a point where it can't recover. And if everything goes well, we're gonna get a puffy crust holding in a bunch of ice. It's gonna look like it was made in a professional pizzeria. Now we're nice and crisp. We're just going to run that through a strainer, catch the fat, because you need it to make the gricia. Top it at the end with our guanciale, drizzle with our guanciale fat, we'll get gricia. Now, let's make a pizza. First up, I've got my pizza peel. I've got some flour, hit it with some cornmeal. Just gonna roll that right onto the board for me. I'd use semolina, I just don't have it. Now our dough looks beautiful. That smells like beautiful New York pizza dough mixed with a little margarita. It's Stevie's new pizza dough. I'm telling you, this thing's money. I got a scraper. Put a little flour on the scraper, put a little flour on the board. So I'm gonna take the scraper, put a little flour kind of around the edges, and then scrape the dough under, get it onto the board. Now you see this? This is the bottom of the dough, which is actually going to be the top of the dough. That imperfection is perfect to create the base on, while that nice smooth side can create a nice crust below. We're gonna flip it, get both sides coated, and then we're gonna begin to sort of set the cornichon. So I'm gonna press in strongly. Rotate it. Set the crust. Set that edge, set the rim with my fingertips. Just like that. Now remember, that's the bottom. Flip it. Do the same thing. Choking off the crust from the rest of the dough so that it puffs up nicely. Move the flour off to the side. And just start to work it out a bit. Then start pressing out the center. And then we can take our palm, place it kind of in the center, stretch it, and then turn it. Don't have to do it fast. You can sort of stretch to the size you want it. Get our dough onto the peel. Make sure it moves. Then I've got these little ice cubes. These little balls of ice, almost like little cubes of mozzarella. I got it on Amazon. Our oven's preheated. We're gonna get ice into the center, fill it up just like you would mozzarella. We want a nice pool of water in there. Then we're gonna pop it into the oven. We're gonna give about 1 to 2 minutes and allow that crust to puff up, create that sort of cradle for the pasta water while the ice melts. Once that crust starts to puff, we're gonna transition to the broiler and recreate the same environment of a pizza oven. Of course, the broiler's not working, you would do the broiler. We're gonna make it work. Rotate it, and we're trying to brown it nice and evenly. It's a little bit of evaporation that happened. So I want to make sure I have enough pasta water in there, just like I would with the Cacio e Pepe, to form the cream. Otherwise, it's just kind of a bunch of grated cheese on top. Cheese mix. Taking the cream, keep going. So we're gonna create kind of like a creamy bottom. You really want a good amount on there. Fresh cracked black pepper, and you've got Cacio e Pepe pizza. Transform it to Grisha, a little bit of that guanciale fat. Top with the crispy guanciale. You see that cream in there? The little dusting on top, just like you would pasta. I mean, it's a really beautiful dough. Flavor's incredible. Reminds me of dough from New York slice shops I used to have growing up. Truly incredible that this had water on it. If you haven't noticed, there's been a motif to this year, which is emphasis on fresh bread baking and dough making. You might not have noticed, but I've been subliminally training you to demystify the dough experience, which I once had. Soft, crunchy, airy, fluffy. Even if you're not interested in the ice part of this is your new go-to dough. Keep the starter alive, keep feeding it a little flour and water every day. If it goes too long, throw it in some more flour, a little bit of more water, throw it on the stove, make fried bread for breakfast, keep it going. Now, if you want the recipe, it's gonna be linked down in the description. I've got some updates on the shoulder. It's not great, not gonna tell you yet, will in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. For now, that's all I've got. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself. Emphasis on that. Go feed yourself.